Good morning, church. Today, Pastor Allison Coventry will share a message from Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1 through 3, and verses 18 through 22.
I'm Rodrigo Diaz, and I will read in Spanish.
And I'm Ana Diaz-Palmer, and I will read in English. Hear the word of the Lord.
Levántate y resplandece que tu luz ha llegado. La gloria del Señor brilla sobre ti. Mira, las tinieblas cubren la tierra y una densa oscuridad se cierne sobre los pueblos. Pero la aurora del Señor brillará sobre ti se manifestará su gloria. Las naciones serán guiadas por tu luz y los reyes por tu amanecer esplendoroso.
Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn.
Ya no se sabrá de violencia en tu tierra, ni de ruinas y destrucción en tus fronteras, sino que llamarás a tus muros salvación y a tus puertas alabanza. Ya no será el sol tu luz durante el día, ni con su resplandor te alumbrará la luna, porque el Señor será tu luz eterna, tu Dios será su gloria. Tu sol no volverá a ponerse ni menguará tu luna. Será el Señor tu luz eterna y llegarán a su fin tus días de duelo.
No longer will violence be heard in your land, nor ruin or destruction within your borders, but you will call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. The sun will no more be your light by day, nor will the brightness of the moon shine on you, for the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. Your sun will never set again, and your moon will wane no more. The Lord will be your everlasting light, and your days of sorrow will end.
Entonces todo tu pueblo será justo y poseerá la tierra para siempre. Serán el renuevo plantado por sí mismo, la obra maestra que me glorificará. El más débil se multiplicará por miles, y el menor llegará a ser una nación poderosa. Yo soy el Señor. Cuando llegue el momento, actuaré sin demora.
Then all your people will be righteous, and they will possess the land forever. They are the shoot I have planted, the work of my hands for the display of my splendor. The least of you will become 1,000, the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time I will do this swiftly.
This is the word of the Lord.
Good morning, RAC. It is such an honor to be invited to kick off 2026 with you. And I always love it when I can just kind of walk over to church in the morning. So it's great to worship with my friends and with my neighbors. And hello to anyone joining us online. I know people join us from around the world, and that's often me online as well. So this is kind of that Sunday, this time of year that's a marker that comes with all kinds of celebration and anticipation. And no matter where you are around the world, you know that the new year is happening. So much of life centers around our calendars. And so depending on your approach to the new year, you may be one of those people who mark this time of year by different kinds of rhythms and commitments. Maybe for some of you, you're just getting off of vacation, so tomorrow is back to school or back to work. It's that time to re-engage with email. Maybe you're someone who's all about the goals and resolutions, and so you're in the midst of a dry or damp January. You may have friends like I do that are starting these intense challenges like 75 hard, or you're like, no, or a Daniel fast. And if you don't know what these are, here's what you need to know. They're intense. Basically, you don't eat anything and it's crazy. But we all have those friends that do these kinds of things. Well, the Seattle Times decided to ask Seattleites what are resolutions in 2026 for Seattle that Seattleites have. So you can probably guess some of the resolutions that came up. For example, let 2026 be the year that we bring back the Supersonics. How about this is finally the year that we stop saying that real Seattleites don't use umbrellas. It's a very weird flex, and it's just dumb. How about we do more of the zipper merge in traffic to reduce congestion? Public service announcement. This is when you take turns like a zipper and you merge. I will talk more with you about it after the service if you want to know more. How about less doom scrolling? Let's replace negative commentary on social media with funny cat videos. And if you're like me, funny dog videos. Let's have opportunity to build community. There's room for improvement in making sure that we're all doing okay. Less sidewalk phone use. If someone smiles, smile back. And let's offer help if someone looks like they need it. Divisiveness is widespread, so let's all strive to be less judgmental. Kindness, collaboration, being bold to try something to tackle problems, like affordable housing for those in need. Well, just to offer some encouragement, I decided to ask the Google the statistics for those trying to make and keep resolutions. And what I found out is that 1 in 4 of us will probably have already given up on our New Year's resolutions by the end of this week. So when I was writing this sermon, I thought, nah, I'm not going to be in that statistic. But I have to tell you that I got a head cold, and so already by January 2nd, I stopped going to the gym. But I'll go back. 80 to 90% of us will have given up the resolutions by February. And yet, what is interesting to me is that we collectively do this kind of resolution making and goal setting year after year. And here's what I enjoy about this annual cycle of optimism that so many people participate in. It has these elements that seem a lot like real life. So we tend to put our hopes and vision out there. This is the person, this is the family, the neighbor, the city that we long to be. So we say, let's go after it, let's do it. And then what happens? Well, people say, well, life happens. Life got in the way. Things got busy. The unexpected happened. I had the best of intentions, but, and you can fill in the blank. This is such a common human struggle to wrestle with. All that we hope for the world and all that we aspire to be and to do, and yet, how do we deal with unfulfilled desires, with unmet expectations? Well, it seems fitting to me that the new year also coincides with the beginning cycle of the liturgical calendar that Christians observe throughout the year. It actually begins a little earlier than New Year's Day. It starts with Advent and it leads into Christmas. It's this season that we're all coming out of that focuses on love and hope and peace and joy coming into the world through Jesus' birth. And Christmas runs through New Year, and then we get to the first Sunday of the year, which is known as Epiphany. And it's the start of a series of days called Ordinary Time. And it leads us from this season of Christmas now to the season of Lent that culminates in the death and resurrection of Jesus. Now, I get it. I'm around a lot of Christians and people, and you may be thinking, yeah, I don't follow the liturgical calendar. That brand of Christianity, it's just in church, that's just not for me. So I get it if you're like, that's not me, that's not the way I usually do things. But regardless of your personal preference or practice, I think that we can all feel the rhythms of life that are shaped by holidays and seasons. You can't hide from it. I mean, Amazon and Starbucks will not let you forget that every holiday, an opportunity to buy something occurs at multiple times a year. So my intention and the way that I want to utilize the liturgical calendar today, talking about ordinary time, is to just offer us a framework that followers of Jesus around the globe have found helpful in understanding some of life's experiences. So think of your life over the next few months. It's kind of this in-between season that almost goes missing in our calendars as we recover from all the nonstop holiday festivities that began with Thanksgiving. And it's the space in the year that leads us up to spring. And for us in Seattle, I don't know if you've noticed this, but even the sun gets tired, and it barely gets up in the morning. And it kind of comes up at this time of year, and then it just goes right back down. And it's dark and it's rainy, and plants are hibernating. I mean, we feel this season of the year. So followers of Jesus said that we need this kind of season, this in-between season, and it's called ordinary time. What do we do with the time where we spend most of our everyday lives, the majority of our days that happen to fall in between the miracles and the high points of the story of Jesus' birth and Jesus' resurrection? So we come out of a season proclaiming good news of peace and joy and love and hope, and then what happens in January? We come face to face with life, and life happens. So let me ask you this. What do you do when what you see and experience around you isn't all just awe-filled, but it's awful? What do you do with failure and contradictions, with darkness and disappointment, when all your good intentions and aspirations and hope-filled desires get thrown by the wayside? That is, what do you do with your ordinary, everyday time filled with all the ups and downs that life throws at you? Or when you hear the latest news update about what's happening in the world over and over again? And I actually started to list some things from the last few weeks, and the list was growing longer and longer, and I realized I'm just missing so many things that have been happening. So even just pause right now and think, what are all the things that we've been hearing and seeing and reading about in our community and in our world right now? Well, this is why Christians said, we need ordinary time. We need stories that remind us how we live in these places in our everyday existence that isn't just about the highs of the holidays. And the good news of Jesus is that the Jesus story and this good news doesn't happen in isolation from real life pain and complexity. So if we skip this ordinary time, if we don't observe it, it's kind of like only watching Hallmark movies. It's too simple. It's too predictable. It's a plot line that resolves too quickly. So I just want to take a moment and look again at the Christmas story and its surrounding context. I think you're familiar enough. This is a Sunday where people often talk about the Magi who follow the star and bring gifts to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And if you look carefully, what happens right after that? It's a story where Herod sends soldiers to murder children under 2 years old in Bethlehem. So how do we make space for that part of the story? Immediately following, we see in the Gospels that Jesus is baptized. But not long after, John, the one who baptizes him, is thrown in prison and is eventually beheaded. It's in the moment that Jesus finds out that John is thrown in prison that the gospel writer Matthew reminds people of what the prophet Isaiah said. And it's a verse that we often hear as part of the Christmas story. Matthew says, "The people who lived in the dark have seen a great light, and a light has come upon those who lived in the region and in the shadow of death." And so here we have ordinary time. And we read these stories taking place in the everyday existence of life in Jesus. And in ordinary time, these stories can hold a lot of contrast and a lot of contradiction. And John the Baptist is the first one we hear going around telling everyone who can hear it, hey, there's good news. Jesus is born into the world. This is a message and a person who changes hearts and lives, and it's gonna change the whole world. But notice what happens in John's own story. He gets thrown in prison. And we then see Jesus doing all this ministry, recruiting disciples, healing people of diseases, teaching about what following God is all about. I mean, it's this ordinary time that is filled with day in the life of Jesus content. And then the story zooms back in on John the Baptist. And it says this, "Now, when John heard in prison about the things that Christ was doing, he sent word by his disciples to Jesus asking, 'Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another?'" I love this question because John looks around at his circumstances and says essentially, is Jesus legit? Is that Christmas story true? Are all these things that we've been saying about hope and joy and love, is that real? Is the message that I have been preaching about God real? Because I thought that my life would turn out differently. So I want to check in. Are you the one, Jesus? Or is there another way, another person, another plan? So Jesus responded and says, "Go report to John what you hear and see. Those who are blind are able to see. Those who were crippled are walking. People with skin diseases are cleansed. Those who were deaf now hear. Those who were dead are raised up. The poor have good news proclaimed to them." This is a story meant to be visited in ordinary time. It's a time that holds space for the stories that name the complexity of life, that we often hold two realities in tension together. We both see that Jesus has come into the world, bringing healing, hope, freedom, and life. And we see the places of pain and darkness and brokenness that are crying out for hope and healing and freedom, and leave us saying, "Jesus, would you come again? Are you the one, Jesus? Are you real God?" Ordinary time is set aside in the calendar so we can name the already and not yet of God's work in the world. The coming of Jesus making all the difference in the world and in people's lives, and that work is not yet finished. So we see the tension in the story of John the Baptist, who, believing in Jesus, telling others about Jesus, seeing the amazing things that Jesus does, is still a victim of corrupt power at work in the world. Perhaps you are here this morning and you're hearing these words and can feel that tension yourself. You experience the both and of ordinary time. Places filled with hope and love and gratitude, and places filled with questions and pain and unfathomable darkness. It's for that reason that followers of Jesus around the world and throughout time said, we need a rhythm in our calendar that holds space for that experience. And so we have Epiphany that starts ordinary time. Epiphany is this word that means to show or to make known or even to reveal. It's about setting aside time for insight and deep understanding, for enlightenment. It's often associated with light. So you could hear it like an aha moment, a perspective that sheds light on something, a light bulb moment. Or it could be like a lighthouse that guides while navigating turbulent seas, or like candles lit in hope and remembrance. So notice again the words that we heard from Isaiah 60 that are often spoke out on this Sunday of the year and in Epiphany. It says, "Arise, shine, your light has come. The Lord's glory has shone upon you. Though darkness covers the earth and gloom the nations, the Lord will shine upon you." Notice the both and. Light has come and darkness covers the earth and gloom the nations. Isaiah here is speaking to a people who are coming out of exile and are deeply vulnerable at this moment. They're experiencing the trauma of displacement, a loss of identity, their lives and their city being destroyed, and they are tired and they're divided by political and economic fragility. And to these people in the midst of disillusionment, just trying to get through the day, Isaiah says, lift up your eyes and look around. Lift up your eyes and look around and see the darkness. That is, name reality. Don't deny reality. See the darkness, ask hard questions, and see God's glory shining on you. So look around. I mean, take just a moment, even right now, in your minds, to look around. Where do you see the both and? Where do you see the contrast? Where do you see darkness? And where do you see light? I'm a part of a fellows group, a cultural intelligence fellows group that includes people who are from Australia and who are living in Australia. And these are colleagues from various faith traditions. And when the news of the Bondi Beach broke out, we were exchanging messages in WhatsApp with one another. Such unfathomable darkness and tragedy that the group was at a loss for words, because really words are always inadequate in those moments to try to have some kind of response or to talk about what happened. And one of the fellows, Tim, who is a follower of Jesus, he's Australian, and he was in Sydney nearby with family. And he responded, he just said, naming shock and anger and being heartbroken, he named that. And then he ended his message saying, "May light prevail over darkness." And it was a simple prayer and blessing. But what stood out to me in that moment was how much it resonated with people in that group, people from all different kinds of faith traditions, and people who have a lot of skepticism even about God and faith. And they responded to it saying, thank you so much for naming that blessing, for saying that. And it moved people to say, so how will we be a part of that light that Tim is talking about? What is our response going to be? How will we choose to live in the world? This is the other key part of ordinary time that we see in this story. It is this ability to hold space and name what is dark and terrible and have hope for light. We name and see all of it in reality and its complexity. We name and see the both and the already not yet. But it also causes people to have some kind of response and say, so who will we choose to be in the world? How will we then live our everyday lives based on what we are seeing? How will we respond to what we see around us? Isaiah says to the people, lift up your eyes and look all around. See the darkness and see God's glory that appears over you. You will see and be radiant. Notice how those who see become themselves radiant in the story. Those who see, they themselves begin to shine. And Isaiah says, nations will come to your light, and kings to your dawning radiance. Holding that tension leads people to see light and then be light in the world. So that question, how will the whole earth be filled with God's glory? How will love and peace and hope and joy, all that we talk about and celebrate in the holiday season, how will all of that come into the world? The response that we see here and that we celebrate in ordinary times is it comes through you. It comes through God's church. It comes through you who become God's hands and feet in the world. It comes through you who choose to live differently. It comes through you who choose to radiate God's light in the world. So lift up your eyes and look all around. Arise and shine. Soon after the gospel writer Matthew tells the story of Jesus' birth, he also reminds us of our calling. Matthew 5 says, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." I was revisiting an interview with Vincent Harding, who was a leader in the civil rights movement. And he said that the whole movement was deeply spiritual and anchored in questions about, so what does it mean then to be truly human in these times? And how does that awareness lead us to being a beloved community rooted in the spiritual practices of nonviolence and love? Particularly in the midst of so much hatred, division, and turmoil, how do we not react to what is going on around us, but act out of love and a different way of being? So he said in that time, songs became really important to those who were working in the civil rights movement. And so at Selma and other places, people began singing, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." For many of us, I know that's like a Sunday school song or a song of our youth, but that song has its roots in people in the civil rights movement saying, so how do we want to be? This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. He said it was to remind ourselves that no matter what others may do to us, God has given us this light inside of us, and we are going to let it shine. So Harding says that what most people need, especially the marginalized living in the darkest places, are those who will stand in that darkness, who will not run away from deeply hurt communities. People need those who will open up the light in the darkness, be the candles and the signposts. The only way to open possibilities to those who are living in darkness is for them to see it through human beings who care about them. This echoes the words and calling that we are invited to remember each Epiphany and in these complex, ordinary times. Arise and shine. Isaiah says, "For the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory, and your days of sorrow will end." When he says they are the shoot, he's saying, you all are the shoot that I have planted, the work of my hands for the display of my splendor. God has planted each and every one of you to display God's splendor in the world and to shine God's light in the darkness. So with that in mind, I do want to come back to our 2026 resolutions. So who do you want to be in and for the world? Who do you want to be in and for the world? We have a city in Seattle of people longing for, did you hear what they were longing for? I mean, a lot of fun things, but then also they were longing for community, longing for kindness, longing for compassion, longing for bold ideas that don't get stuck in decision-making process but can actually make a difference in our city. That's what our city is crying out for. So what rhythms and practices will you resolve to put into place that will help you see light in the darkness and be light in the darkness? How will you be someone who sees and names reality in all its complexity and enacts the hope and love of Jesus in the midst of it? So, like any good goal setting, may I suggest that you be specific. What will you do? Who will you do it with? Where? When? How? You may even want to pull out your calendar right now and mark something down or jot some notes. Let your friends, your family, your small group know what you want to commit to. Now, there are some crazy ideas. I found out that at Epiphany, if you're Eastern Orthodox in places like Russia and Ukraine, Christians will take an ice water submersion bath as a way to signify renewal and commitment. So if you want to do something as bold as that, if there's a volunteer who wants to lead people down to Lake Washington for a cold water plunge, Aaliyah is volunteering. That is apparently an Epiphany thing. So thank you, Aaliyah. Find her, not me. But what is doable, if that's not your vibe? What is doable for you in ordinary time? You know, I've mentioned my connection to Rainier Avenue Church over the years, and something that I've been so grateful for in this community over the last 16 years is that there are a lot of specific ways to engage in practices and in community. It was at Rainier Avenue Church that I had a spiritual director who reminded me, Allison, did you notice how many times you say, I was out hiking and I connected with God? We have been a people and a place that say you can find God not just in this Sunday morning rhythm, but in these other rhythms that embrace God's creation and beauty all over the place. So if it's about hiking, if for you it's about sewing something, I don't know, I don't sew, but if whatever it is for you, what are the practices that you can have in place? I'm thankful for this community that there are also people that can have that conversation with you. So if you're like, I want to find a spiritual director, there are spiritual directors that are connected to this community. Maybe it's about doing life and community together, and so you want to say, hey, Pastor Deborah, can you help me get connected into one of the small groups that are a part of this church? Rainier Avenue, you're all about eating together and eating well together. So maybe it's like, let's go out and have a potluck. Let's cook some food together. Let's find some rhythms that help us connect and remember real life. Rainier Avenue, you're a church that serves the community and knows the needs in this community. So how can you see what's happening and hear what's happening and be people that serve together? I know that there's several opportunities, formally and informally. What are the things that you can do? Can you name them? Can you be specific? Can you mark them down? And can you help one another live this out? Because our world and our city needs people who will shine light and who will find and resolve to be that light in the world. With God's help, let's pray. Our God, we thank you for who you are, and we thank you for ordinary time. And that as you come into this world, that you come in understanding the complexity and the tension that we hold. And so, God, I pray that you would help us to open our eyes and to look around and become aware of the reality that is a part of our everyday existence, the reality of our family, our friends, our neighbors, our city. God, would you help us to see and name what is dark, and would you help us also to see glimmers of hope and light and life? And God, I pray that we as your people would arise and shine, that we would be a radiant people, a people who are remembered of the power of what it means for your son Jesus to come into this world and how we are sent out to share love and hope and goodness and light in the world. So help us to do it, God, and help us to do it in practical, tangible ways. In Jesus' name, amen.